Good morning. My micro teaching assignment is the Theory of Moral Development, Lawrence Kohlberg. The purpose of this oral presentation is to provide a thoughtful analysis of my assigned topic, but to also identify and explain the strategies and techniques based upon the concepts of the stages of moral development theory of Lawrence Kohlberg. Kohlberg furthered the studies of Jean Piaget while a psychology student at University of Chicago in 1958. He continued to study and work on the theory throughout his lifetime. Piaget's theory stated the development of moral judgment was through specific stages. Kohlberg further explained logic of moral development was primarily based upon justice, and the development was through the entire lifetime of an individual's development. While his study of moral development, Kohlberg studied how individuals would justify their actions if placed in similar dilemmas. He focused on moral reasoning based upon 6 stages of development. He also would explain how someone would justify their moral behavior and gives the general hypothesis that moral behavior is responsible, consistent, and predictable. The stages of Kohlberg's theory of moral development will be explained shortly. It has been said an entirely new field of psychology was created according to Kohlberg's theory of moral development. Kohlberg was the 16th most frequently cited psychologist in the introduction of psychology textbooks. I will now explain the 6 stages of Kohlberg's theory of moral development. There are 3 levels, 2 stages in each level. The levels are pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional. Supported by Piaget's theory of cognitive development, rarely does an individual regress in the stages of moral development. In level 1, which is the pre-conventional level, there is the 2 stages. The first stage is obedience and punishment orientation. This stage is especially obvious in children. When a child reasons during this stage, often the end consequence is in their thought process. An action is perceived as morally wrong when punishment resulted from the act. The thought becomes, how can I avoid punishment? The child can reason, this is wrong, and does not want to be disobedient, as the consequence can result in the punishment. This is the obedience and punishment stage of development. Example, a student doesn't want to skip school because they don't want to get in trouble. The pre-conventional stage 2 is self-interest orientation. The development thought process is, what's in it for me? Which is the right behavior in the best interest of the particular individual? This act of reasoning thinks very little of others, and the individual only thinks of their own interest. The best example I read about is, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours mentality for reasoning development. Another example is doing chores, but they're not going to just do the chores, they want the reward, the allowance, the money for doing their homework, or the money for earning the A's on the report card. Thus, the monetary result is the self-orientation for moral behavior. Level 2, conventional. The first stage is interpersonal accord and conformity. This is the typical act of reasoning for most adolescents and adults. The morality of actions is based upon how society views their actions and a person's expectations with the individual ability to determine right from wrong. The individual obeys rules, follows the norm, even if there is no consequence for obeying rules or following the norm. A child makes a decision to be good, and their parents' eyes, as well as others, the child has learned being good is a benefit. Level 2, the second stage, is conventional, authority and social order. This stage is the reasoning as to why it is important to obey laws, to be successful in functioning in everyday life. When a law is broken, it is morally wrong. Most of society morally accepts laws, regardless of any pressure from outside sources. Level 3, the first stage, post-conventional, social contract orientation. In this stage, individuals may begin to reason their own benefits and perspectives are contrary to society. These individuals live by their own beliefs, contrary to the norm. Some examples are human rights such as life, liberty, and justice. It is felt in this stage, rules are not absolute. This becomes visible usually in college-age adults. Level 3, the second stage, universal ethical principles. In this stage, moral reasoning is based upon abstract reasoning using universal ethical practice. An example would be, imagine what a person would do if they were in their shoes. The individual makes right moral decision only to avoid punishment. It is rare, according to Kohlberg's theory, for an individual to remain in this state of moral development. The philosophy of Kohlberg rests on the assumption that humans do communicate, are capable of reasoning, and possess a desire to understand others and the world around them. The theory is based upon the qualitative moral reasoning of individuals. Kohlberg's theory understands value as critical in reasoning between what is right and what is wrong. Progress of the six stages happens when a person becomes competent in processing regard for persons or having a regard for reasoning with personal merit. Kohlberg's theory also believes knowledge and learning contribute to moral development. The views of persons and their social perspective level becomes more complex and mature within each of the six stages as they progress. In 1958, Kohlberg established the moral judgment interview in his college dissertation. During this 45-minute interview, more dilemmas were used to determine which stage of moral reasoning would be used. The dilemmas were fictional short stories. The interviewees were asked a series of open-ended questions about the right course of action and were asked to include justification for their reasoning. The Heinz dilemma was used in the original research. Through the various six stages of the Heinz dilemma, reasoning occurred with varying decisions made. The Heinz dilemma to me is interesting. It is a story about a druggist in Europe that was creating a cancer drug that could help a woman. It was the only drug that could help her. The druggist charged 10 times more than what it originally cost him to make the cancer drug. The sick woman's husband, Mr. Heinz, could only collect half of the money needed to purchase the drug. He asked the druggist to let him have the drug for his dying wife for the money he had, and he would pay the druggist later. The druggist would not agree. Mr. Heinz became desperate, stole the drug from the druggist. Should he have broken into the lab and stolen the drug or not? Through the various stages, here are the positions of the Heinz dilemma. Stage 1, reasoning, obedience, is Mr. Heinz should not steal it or he will be put in prison. Stage 2, reasoning, self-interest. Mr. Heinz should steal the medicine since he will be happy that he tried to save his wife. Or he should not steal it since prison is an awful place. He will have more anguish over being put in prison than if his wife dies. A stage 3 reasoning, conformist. Mr. Heinz should steal the medicine since he wants to be a good husband. Or Mr. Heinz should not steal the medicine. It is not the right thing to do. He tried everything he could to save his dying wife. Stage 4 reasoning is law and order. The law does not allow stealing, and he should not steal the medicine. Or if he steals the drug to help his wife, he should be punished. You cannot go around breaking the law. A stage 5 reasoning, human rights. Mr. Heinz should steal the medicine, as everyone has the right to choose life. Mr. Heinz does not have the right to steal the drug, as the druggist invented the medicine and has a right to be compensated for the medicine he created. Stage 6, universal human ethics. Mr. Heinz should steal the medicine because saving a human life. has more value than the property of a person. Kohlberg's theory is found to be relevant as the basis for the paper and pencil test, defining issues test created by James Rust. This test is used to replace the moral judgment interview used in many areas where moral testing is required, such as in politics, religion, and medicine. As I continue to research Kohlberg's theory of moral development, as a middle school teacher, I came across some interesting information. Being a family and consumer science teacher, I found it interesting that moral development at the school is proposed to occur in family and consumer science classes. Role-playing of scenarios allows students to explore their own beliefs. Reviewing situations, what would you do, can be presented in the FACS curriculum. Students do not soak up morals. Through situations, students construct values and morals with the maturing of reasoning. Practical real-life problems, studying concepts of communication, anger management, relating to others. Students can make a difference between caring and uncaring with review of morals and reasoning. When a student came to me to discuss how he handled a real-life situation at home, it was the aha for family and consumer science, because he handled a situation in a positive way and ended up with a positive result. At the school level, it is found important to familiarize all students with discipline procedures, including parent contact for discipline infractions. If a student behavior has earned a stint in detention, require the student to complete a writing assignment and reflect upon respect and responsibility. When school discipline is necessary, discipline assignment first to fit the crime. Then discipline is to be assigned in a hierarchical approach, an ascending order. The more infractions, the worse the punishment. The student needs to realize with each behavior there is a consequence. In summary, affecting a positive change is the heart of Kohlberg's theory of moral development, with mature reasoning for a comfortable atmosphere, the classroom environment. Thus, in my agreement with Kohlberg's theory, it is the foundation for classroom management.